Collision over the Potomac, the deadly mid-air disaster of 2025. Washington, D.C., January 29, 2025, 8:42 p.m. A thick winter fog hung low over the Potomac River, the city lights of Washington, D.C. flickering like distant fireflies. It was a quiet night until the sky exploded. A Bombardier CRJ 700 operating as American Airlines Flight 5342 was making its final descent into Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport after a smooth flight from Wichita, Kansas. In the cockpit, the pilots were calm, their hands steady on the controls. Below them, the frozen river snaked through the city, the last hurdle before touchdown. Two experienced pilots, Captain Jonathan Campos, 34 years old with 6 years of service at PSA Airlines, and First Officer Samuel Lilly, 28 years old with 2 years at the airline, flying the plane. At that very moment, a Black Hawk helicopter, a sleek, silent beast of war, was carving through the air on a night training mission. The U.S. Army's 12th Aviation Battalion had launched it from Davison Army Airfield, Virginia, on a routine drill. 3 soldiers were aboard. Captain Rebecca Loback, 28 years old, pilot undergoing annual night evaluation. Chief Warrant Officer 2, Andrew Eves, 39 years old, serving as the evaluating pilot. Staff Sergeant Ryan O'Hara, 29 years old, acting as crew chief, were the flying pilots of Black Hawk helicopter, their focus razor sharp. But something was off. The helicopter was flying too high, too fast, and completely invisible to air traffic control. At 8:41 p.m., inside the cockpit of Flight 5342, a soft chime echoed a routine altitude alert. The first officer checked their descent path. Everything was in place. The cabin behind them hummed with silence. A businessman tightened his seatbelt. A college student scrolled through his phone, unaware it would be his last message. Then, collision alert. On the screen, a red dot appeared directly ahead, but there was nothing on radar. No plane, no warning from air traffic control, just a silent ghost in the night. At 8:42 p.m., a flash of metal, a blur of rotors, and then carnage. The Black Hawk's nose sliced through the fuselage, its rotor blades shredding through rows of passengers like a buzzsaw. A scream, a burst of sparks. The jet lurched violently, its right wing nearly ripped off. For a fraction of a second, the two aircraft hung together in a death grip, fused by disaster. Then, like a wounded animal, the CRJ 700 spiraled downward, its engine screaming. The Black Hawk, now a wrecked carcass, spun wildly before bursting into flames. At 8:43 p.m., the Potomac River erupted in a fiery explosion. Onlookers from the Key Bridge gasped as they saw 2 fireballs plunge into the icy water. The impact sent a massive shockwave across the river, shaking windows miles away. Flaming debris rained from the sky, some pieces slamming into the frozen banks. There were no survivors. 67 lives gone in an instant. The mystery unfolds. Within hours, the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, and the FBI were on the scene. What they uncovered was even more terrifying than the crash itself. The Black Hawk was flying above its designated altitude. Its ADS-B tracking system was switched off. Air traffic control had no idea it was there. Why was a military helicopter operating in the dead zone of airspace, just outside one of the busiest airports in the country? And more importantly, who gave the order? The investigation, a cover-up? The deeper investigators dug, the murkier the story became. Surveillance footage from an Arlington rooftop caught a flash in the sky seconds before impact, suggesting the Black Hawk had tried to evade at the last moment. Pilot's last words recorded in the CRJ 700 cockpit were chilling. "He's right in front of, climb, climb." Then, silence. The military refused to answer why the helicopter's tracking system was off. Was it a classified mission, a technical failure, or something far more sinister? It was the terrible plane incidents of Americans' history. Here's a list of some of the most tragic plane incidents in American history before January 29, 2025. 1. September 11th Terrorist Attacks, 2001. 4 hijacked planes were used in coordinated attacks on the Twin Towers, New York, the Pentagon, Virginia, and a failed attempt that crashed in Pennsylvania. Nearly 3,000 people died, making it the deadliest aviation-related event in history. 2. American Airlines Flight 191, 1979, a McDonnell Douglas DC-10 crashed shortly after takeoff from Chicago O'Hare International Airport due to an engine detaching. All 271 people on board and 2 on the ground died, making it the deadliest non-terrorist air disaster in U.S. history. 3. Pan Am Flight 103, 1988, Lockerbie bombing. A terrorist bombing caused a Boeing 747 to explode over Lockerbie, Scotland. All 259 people on board and 11 on the ground died. 4. Tenerife Airport Disaster, 1977, KLM and Pan Am collision. 2. Boeing 747s, KLM Flight 4805 and Pan Am Flight 1736 collided on a foggy runway in Tenerife, Spain. 583 people died, making it the deadliest aviation accident globally. 5. United Airlines Flight 232, 1989. A DC-10 suffered catastrophic engine failure, leading to a crash landing in Sioux City, Iowa. 111 of 296 passengers died, but heroic efforts saved many lives. 6. TWA Flight 800, 1996. A Boeing 747 exploded mid-air off the coast of Long Island due to a suspected fuel tank explosion. All 230 passengers and crew perished. 7. Alaska Airlines Flight 261, 2000. A McDonnell Douglas MD-83 crashed into the Pacific Ocean due to a stabilizer failure. All 88 people on board were killed. 8. Colgan Air Flight 3407, 2009. A Bombardier Q400 crashed near Buffalo, New York due to pilot error and icing conditions. All 49 on board and 1 person on the ground died. Back to the story. Among the dead, Evgenia Shishkova and Vadim Naumov, former Russian figure skating champions, en route to a coaching event. Shishkova and Naumov began skating together in 1985 under coaches Lyudmila and Nikolai Velikov. They earned bronze at the 1991 European Championships and continued to achieve significant success, culminating in winning the World Championship in pairs figure skating in 1994. They also competed in the 1992 and 1994 Winter Olympics, placing 5th and 4th respectively. After retiring from competitive skating in 1998, the couple moved to the United States, initially coaching at the International Skating Center of Connecticut. In 2017, they joined the Skating Club of Boston, where they mentored numerous skaters, including their son, Maxim Naumov, the 2020 U.S. Junior National Champion. Following their son's participation in the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita, Shishkova and Naumov remained to contribute to a development camp aimed at nurturing emerging talent. They were en route to their home in Massachusetts when the fatal accident occurred. Kaya Dugins, a fearless civil rights lawyer who had just won a landmark case. Kaya worked with organizations such as the American Civil Liberties Union of Northern California and Neufeld, Scheck, and Brustin, focusing on police misconduct cases. Most recently, she was an attorney at the Civil Rights Corps, a nonprofit dedicated to challenging systemic injustice. She litigated cases addressing unconstitutional policing and money bail practices in Tennessee, Texas, and Washington, D.C. Dustin Miller, an IT specialist and devoted Kansas City Chiefs fan, texting his wife that he'd be home soon, but they never had a chance. The fallout. Within days, conspiracy theories exploded across the internet. Was the Black Hawk on a covert mission? Was air traffic control ordered to look the other way? Did the military try to erase something or someone on that flight? Government officials scrambled to contain the backlash. The FAA grounded flights at Reagan National for emergency safety changes. The NTSB demanded answers. But the biggest question remained: who was really responsible? The Potomac's dark secret. The wreckage was pulled from the river piece by piece. The black boxes were recovered, analyzed, and classified. The final report, heavily redacted. To this day, no clear explanation has been given. The military's role remains shrouded in secrecy, but one thing is certain: on the night of January 29th, 2025, over the freezing waters of the Potomac, something went terribly, terribly wrong, and someone, somewhere, knows the truth.